Some months ago I was contacted by a lady in Ohio who presented herself to me as Jazz from Jazz G Cops, a paranormal group based in Spencerville. At first Jazz was a good internet friend and we chatted quite a lot, often on her favourite subject of EVPs, and in the process I met online her family, comprising of her husband Rob and a lovely little girl called Megan. After a while Jazz's comments to me took on a more romantic twist, and she would often end text messages with lots of kisses and hugs, and even the odd comment that she loved me. At first I wasn't too concerned because Jazz uses this phraseology quite a lot, and especially with new friends. My worries really manifested themselves when Jazz called me a lot on Skype when her husband was at work. I realised that Jazz had an infatuation for me, and that was disconcerting as I only really wanted to be a friend and have a chat. Suffice to say that it eventually changed for the worse when Jazz introduced me to another lady in Ohio called Brandy Borgia, who was researching through Jazz on her subject of EVPs. Brandy asked whether I could perform healing on her 12-year-old son who suffered headaches in electrical storms. The reason she inquired was through my internet healing video when I performed on Jazz with her many ailments. I agreed to help, and this immediately angered Jazz, and when I asked as to how she was so upset, she then tore into a barrage of filthy words against this lady. She warned me off Brandy and called her a skank bitch whore. I decided, and I feel unwisely to do so, to play down the situation then and hope that this tension would pass, but it didn't. I then told Jazz I was travelling over to the USA to film paranormal events, and Jazz invited me to stay at hers for the full 2 weeks. By then Brandy had also invited me over to hers for part of the time, and this I explained to Jazz. Jazz went uncommonly quiet for 24 hours, but by the following day she had blocked me and Brandy from all of her sites. She then sent a long-worded email to me attacking Brandy and me and accused me of betrayal and that she was a fool to trust me. Now remember those expressions as they will come into play shortly. In this email, Jazz claimed she was in love with me and had wanted me to be hers the whole 2 weeks. Now she decided she hated me and Brandy. She repeatedly attacked Brandy with bitter and twisted invectives and claimed that this wasn't over as I had apparently fallen for her. I sent a wordy response in reply to Jazz but basically said this. A. I wasn't interested in her and certainly gave no indication to her that I wanted a relationship. B. I was concerned also about her mental health because the scenario upon which she placed me, herself and Brandy, was pure fantasy, yet in her eyes this was all for real. And C. I was no longer a friend with her regardless after reading her foul-mouthed responses. I tried to act diplomatically with Jazz over this issue, but she was having nothing of it. A few days later, 2 new YouTube sites appeared which linked all of Jazz's videos, so it looked pretty evident who the author might be. Remember I explained to you the earlier expressions, betrayal and fall to trust? Well, these 2 sites were called, surprisingly, The Trust of Fall and Betrayal in the Shadows. From these 2 sites, Jazz launched an all-out war on me and Brandy. During these hostilities, she would rant insults from these sites. In the process of doing so, a few others fell into Jazz's target zones. Gradually, the sites increased and so did the abuse. Here are the sites attributable to Jazz. Other YouTube users who Jazz attacked discovered that there were other victims, some of whom wrote directly to me, and others who just wanted me to know but didn't want to get involved. And it's at this point I invite anyone to share their horror stories or remarks about Jazz, as there appears to be a commonality as to how they fell out with her and what her response was. By this time, Jazz was in full scorn on her many websites here on YouTube. And knowing her aliases as well as we did by now through the hate mail that was sent from them, it became apparent that Jazz was having 3-way conversations with herself by using the different aliases to make a comment or reply. Also, her general mental health seemed to change for the worse, although this is not a medical fact but purely my opinion only, as her responses were becoming more and more bizarre. I decided to keep my head down and concentrate on my work. I joined YouTube to make movies of the paranormal and not to get hooked into this woman's wild accusations and insinuating remarks. But that failed as my ratings on YouTube were being hit constantly by 1-star ratings to bring them down. On one occasion I saw that she had used the Jazz Cops account to downrate my work. Check my recent videos and see for yourself. Putting this behind me, I went away to America in late September. Whilst in the USA, I discovered that Jazz had, according to her own comments, employed a team of British hoodlums to go break into my house. Also, there was a baseball bat, apparently, with my name on it, and a bullet etched with Brandy's initials. She claimed that she and her team also might pop over to Brandy for some fun. We took all of these remarks as direct threats to our safety and well-being. I wasn't too concerned about my house, as there was sufficient security in place with camcorders and alarms to prevent this type of intrusion. But the direct threats were something that needed an immediate response. And so on day 2 of my visit to the USA, both I and Brandy reported the incident to a local police station. And as you can see, here are the attached photographs of the visit. The detective in charge said that arrangements would be made to speak to Jazz and that all items of text or other events connected to Jazz be reported to him directly, which they were. After this, I spent 2 weeks with Brandy and her son and their 2 lovable but quite large dogs. And for the record, I slept on the lounge settee and made a lot of video on the paranormal, which I'm sharing with you now. According to the rantings of Jazz, I apparently never visited America and made all this up. Anyway, I digress. By now, Jazz has fallen out with a lot more YouTubers, and one, Sharon Galloway, decided to put videos onto YouTube pointing out to the world that Jazz was no innocent. Again, I return to my sitting on the fence ploy, as a psychologist warned me that the best way of dealing with haters was to ignore, block and delete. However, events were to turn yet again when Jazz created a fantasy story of persecution upon her by me, Brandy, Sharon and a whole list of others. Reading the story on her comments page, all she had to do was put her name as the guilty party, which more than adequately explains just how bad this woman has put us through. Everything she claims in there is us upon her, in fact it's her upon us. Trust me, this is the truth. Things came to a head today when I received a barbed comment from a YouTube subscriber who decided that Jazz was being picked upon by me and others, and in disgust he decided to close his subscription with me. I wrote to explain, but he was having nothing of it. I also discovered I had lost 5 other subscribers through the same process, and that there were 2 new websites on YouTube attacking me. The first, if you want to check, is, quite simply, one word, Chris Halton is a faggot. That's CHRISHALTONISAFAGGOT. And the other is Jazz666 Rules. So I've decided that enough is enough and have made this video to help you make a more informed decision. This is a comment that she sent to me here on YouTube about another paranormal group not far from where I live in the UK. They are currently subscribed to Jazz and are friends. To save them embarrassment, I won't mention their name. Here is what she wrote. Can you afford to believe this woman? I certainly can't if others believe the evil bile that pours from her lips. And in conclusion, here is my position. If I hated Jazz so much, why have the gift of feeling which I have shared with this woman on many occasions? And I felt sorry for her. I hate negativity, I hate name-calling, and I hate the pure maliciousness of these stalkers on the internet, these silent haters. I enjoy making videos to share. I harbour no ill feelings and loathe bullying, and yet I am a victim of both. Here are some comments received from YouTubers who support me. I have not mentioned their names to spare them more agonised attacks from this woman. The first letter. Hi Chris, I'm writing to you because you've been one of the most fair posters in this flame war between Jazz and the rest of YouTube, mostly because it has gotten back to me that some people suspect that I am still affiliated with her. This lady is not affiliated to her. I don't condone any of her behaviours, and I think that she needs to be removed from the internet, period, not just YouTube. She also needs some professional help and medication, and that's not even being mean. I know for a fact that she has some mental illness going on. I just wanted you to know that I respect your work. I don't have any ill will towards you, and I think that the way you have conducted yourself, in spite of what she has been saying and doing, to provoke you to do otherwise, says a lot in your favour.